G'day, welcome back to Horsepower. If you didn't see my last video, you'll see that we entered a tarmac hill climb over 2 days, and the first day went alright and the second day did not. So what happened is we were cruising up on the third run and the motor exploded. Well, not entirely exploded, but oil came out the top of the motor all over the windscreen. Started running on 3 cylinders with no power at all. So today we're going to run a compression test and see what happened.
Cylinder, 0 psi.
A wee trick I like to do when the motor's out of the car and we want to roll it around, instead of having the axle here to hold the wheel bearing together, I've machined up some of these little aluminium bits which rub on the seal, and then it's got a bolt through to hold the bearing together. That just makes it way easier to push around. If you don't have anything in there, your wheel bearing will fall apart, and we don't want that. If you do have an axle in there, it flops around, gets caught up on the arms, and it's just a pain in the ass, whereas these just make it super easy. I've just pulled the short block to bits, so the plan for this rebuild is to effectively rebuild it the way it was. It's going to need a new set of pistons and a new block. Fortunately, everything else in the engine, the crank and the conrods and all the bearings and everything else looks in perfect condition. These are the pistons that came out of it. It's pretty gnarly. Quite a piece of art, really. That's what happens when you get it too hot. I presume this is the result of detonation, probably due to a lean mixture, which I'm yet to find the cause. 2 and 3 look fine, and number 1, got a wee bit of damage there too. Not nearly as catastrophic as the other one, but certainly on its way. This leads me to believe it was probably running lean across the board, so possibly there's something wrong with the tune. So it's going to get replaced with, so these are CP pistons, so I've got another set of CP pistons ready to go. They were just what could be sourced locally quickly, and CP are sort of reasonably renowned for doing quality stuff. But even they can't handle what I did to that, so obviously reuse these Manly rods, which will look in perfect condition. With the new pistons, we'll put new rings on it, also full set of big end bearings and main bearings while we're in there. This is a new short block. So as I said, it's a freshly sourced Caldina block. It done a million Ks probably. Been sitting around my shed for a while. So it's essentially going to be the same setup as my last engine. We'll try and tune this one properly so we don't have a repeat. So we've got a tried and true combination, CP pistons, Manly rods, ARP main studs, obviously new rings, new bearings. Everything's been checked by Adam, who, if you watch the Corolla series, you'll be familiar with him. He's put a wee dick in the end here to remind me to put this bung in. So yeah, it's ready to go together. Big thanks to Adam for doing that for me. Over here we have a brand new Toyota gasket kit, a new water pump. I've cleaned the sump. I'm reusing the old oil pump. It was fairly new anyway. Just changed the seals in it, repacked it with grease, and the head is exactly the same as before. It's just had a check over, make sure none of the valves were leaking. Fortunately, they all came back pretty good. Just a bit of a clean down. I gave the surface here a bit of a clean up with some 1200 grit sandpaper. I'll give it another wipe down before it all goes on. Here we have some more bits installed. Sump's all on. It's a two-piece sump with these Gen 4s. This oil cooler adapter, oil pump, water pump. This little blanking plate here for the old style oil filter, which isn't used on the Gen 4. The factory, they do come with a water to oil heat exchanger to both cool the oil and heat up the oil on startup. The only problem with them is that if you run a bearing, you get bits of metal through them and you can't clean them. And I've got some second hand ones there, but I'm not sure of the history, so I think it's best to leave it. It doesn't need the oil cooling because it's got a external oil cooler which is going to be bolted to it. So that's just a simple way of doing it. The next job is to put on the head gasket, head studs and cylinder head. We got the engine all back together. It's nothing particularly interesting, it's just bolting back on the turbo, intake manifold, all the head, timing gear, a few other bits and pieces. There's obviously ancillaries like the alternator and power steering pump to go on, but I'll probably put those on once it goes into the car. I need to get a car off the hoist at the moment, so I need to finish that job before I'll put the car on the hoist. We'll bolt the gearbox up and then lift it into the car. We've got the motor and the gearbox all back together, along with the wiring loom, all the bracketry. So she's pretty much ready to put back in the hole. I've given the engine bay a bit of a clean. It may not look like it, but it was a lot dirtier. When the motor exploded, it put its oil throughout the entire engine bay. So she's looking a bit better. Time to lift her up into the hole. Starting to look like a car again. Everything's back in. She's got some run-in oil in the motor, got gearbox oil, she's got coolant. It's pretty much ready to start up. Before we start it up, we just want to crank the engine over and make sure we got oil pressure, and we should see this in our power tune dash. You see we've got our oil pressure there, so we'll keep an eye on that. So it's not good, we didn't get any oil pressure. And I think I found why. We got a big drip down here coming between the crankcase and the gearbox, which would lead you to say rear main seal, but the rear main seal isn't going to hold an oil pressure. So I've just been and looked at the spare block. Not the spare block, the old block, and it's got this bung in here which I guess needs to be installed in the other one. I remember to put in the front one, but I forgot about the back one, so the whole motor and gearbox is going to have to come out again. Bugger. It's the moment of truth. Well, it seems to start and run as it should. It's still got the old tune on it, which will be enough for a run-in. So that's the next job, is to take it for a bit of a drive, go through that procedure of loading it up, running it in, probably try and do 100, maybe 200 k's quietly on the street, and then ready for tune. It doesn't appear to have any leaks or anything strange, so that's all good. It's always a bit of a nervous time starting a brand new engine, but for now it seems good. We are here at SAS to get the car tuned. The motor is running. It was a nice rainy quiet night on Wednesday, Thursday night or something. Just took it out for a bit of a late night run-in around the hills, which loads it up nicely. Got a wee upgrade here, so we got 4 big coils with leads, so that should hopefully make sure we don't get any spark issues. We're just waiting on Jason now to get ready, and hopefully we can crack the 300 kilowatt mark. So I think I made 290 something last time, so see how we go.